Good morning, John Spielkley here for GAI Insights, reviewing your AI news, putting thoughts in your head, time in your day. I'm delighted to have Karen Papisa here today with us, as well as Paul Beyer, Adam Rappaport, Ankush Mahundra. All right, if we could have the first article, Ankush. And remember, everybody, if you want to follow along, GAIinsights.com/articles.
Thanks, John. So the first one that we have for today comes from HBR, and it is titled Stop Running So Many AI Pilots.
All right, we have stopped running so many AI pilots. Yes, the backlash begins. Adam, what do you think here?
So I was a mixed bag of emotions on this one. I think overall I say it was an important article. There are a lot of really good points in here. There are probably some things I didn't quite agree with overall. One of the things that really struck me, so it's about this company Reckitt and sort of the strategy they took of really focusing deep in one area of their business where they understood that they could tie all of their different AI solutions together and sort of make this value loop. That was really the right approach, rather than going wide and casting a net and doing all of these use cases across all these different things and just sort of seeing what stuck. And even if some of them got value, it wasn't significant. I like it generally. I think there's probably a more nuanced approach to use case analysis and deciding perhaps in parallel to take some quick wins and some longer initiatives. But generally, I think there's good things to take away. The one thing that really struck me was that deep and narrow approach they're talking about. It cited a BCG survey from 2024. Out of 1,000 CXOs and senior executives, only 4% said they took that deep and narrow approach, but it actually achieved twice the ROI over time. So he makes a good case. I think it's definitely worth taking a looking at. I'm not sure if it's an essential read though.
All right, Paul, where are you on this?
I think that, well, a couple of different things. I think pilot theater is good. I mean, John, I mean, when I was on a call the presentation this week with Steve at Capgemini, they banned pilots here. So I think we got to understand what the definition of a pilot is. Is it employees playing with custom GPTs, or is it 15 proof of technical feasibility that you show on the board here? And it's the latter. I clearly believe that time is gone. I had as important. I think the deep versus narrow is a thing that I continue to hear from these next stage of not early adopters, but kind of early adopters of version 2. They're just getting started and they really need some guidance. So important.
All righty. So important it is, Karen?
Yeah, I'd agree with important. I think I really kind of love the sentiment. It's a great steer to get out of the sandbox and into prod. And I think like a lot of companies look at the quantity of pilots and then try to rate the pilots. In my experience. But, if you set up your pilots right the first time and gear them toward a use case that is instrumental to the business and changes the business in some measurable way, I think, then you'll have enough, teeth in it to go deep and to really make an impact on the business. So I'd agree with Adam. It's important.
All right, Ankush, where are you on this one?
I was essential on this one, John. I think this makes the point about doing a lesser number of AI pilots in a way which an executive can understand with an example, with a public company example, Reckitt, right? We have been seeing these studies across in the last 6 to 12 months, which talk about that most of the AI pilots fail. So I think in light of those studies and what we have seen in our experience as well, for me, it was an essential read to tell an AI executive that, okay, this is something which has been done successfully by a public company. You should think about it and learn from it.
Yeah, I think I'm going to go for important on this one. This, if it didn't have such good stories and stuff, I would have given it an optional. Because listen to these recommendations, right? Step 1, identify the most promising opportunity. Step 2, identify areas of lasting advantage. Step 3, choose the right sequence. Step 4, monitor the competitive landscape. I mean, come on.
Anyway, Karen John's bringing out his HBS grading rubric here.
Yes, Karen, there's it's the Spielkley rule of vacuous content, which is you take the opposite of what has been said and it's nonsensical. You haven't said anything. So anyway, so I think this would fail the Spielkley rule of vacuous content, but it's got good case studies underneath, so we're going for important. Next.
So what what's Ankaj's argument for why it's essential is what you're saying saves it from optional.
Correct. Correct. I was headed for important, but yeah, sorry, Ankaj, we're going important.
No
Next.
worries, John. Yeah. Okay, the next one comes from Parallel, and they have introduced their search API. No worries, John.
Yeah, I mean, kind of cool. You know, they're redoing Google, but making it aiming at machine readable content. What do you think here, Karen?
You know, I think it's important, and the reason is, if this gets adopted, it stands to upend the way search is constructed in terms of the context that any LLM that is search enabled can grab data accurately. And this model has really superseded a lot of the benchmarks. It's extremely accurate. And that's one thing that, is paramount to, search and the speed of search for everyone, who is in a knowledge worker role. So we have, we have something here that is kind of interesting in terms of how the AI agents are coming into play. So this parallel technology is really going to be for those AI agents to retrieve and fetch data that is highly accurate very quickly. And that comes into play when you have a lot of agents that are being orchestrated together to take action on behalf of the user. So if it's anything from, making a purchase when the item, reaches a low point of $50, for example, or, doing more complex searches, like, I want to fly to a certain place in February, to really understanding an internal business process. So, applying this to search engines is one thing. Applying this internally in an enterprise is another. So, right now it's just a launch announcement. There's not a lot of, play here in terms of real life use. But I do think it's important in terms of just watching it, like keeping an eye, because search, SEO is changing, and AIO, AEO, GEO, all the things that talk about how to get mentioned in LLM responses are getting really, really, really important to any business. What did you all think?
Important area, kind of, just early days. So make it important, not essential. Adam, what do you think?
Yeah, because it is early days and it's a product announcement, I was between optional and important. It could end up proving to be very important. It's certainly, I think, worthy.
Hey, Adam, you just told me I can't sit on the fence. What's this between?
I'm not sitting on the fence. I think it's absolutely worthy of an important rating, and I'll explain why. It's that there's another factor in this explosion in token cost to consider, which is actually the cost against accuracy, right? Because if you have to do more validation, more re-ranking, more of these other token heavy things to determine whether you got the right result in the first place, this is just another metric, another dimension to how you really have to consider the value proposition of these models. So it is worth taking into consideration.
Yes, as our friend, the founder of Quantum Gears, Mamoon Yunus, said, when you start putting these agents in place, they can become very chatty, right? Mm-hmm. Going back and forth about trying to figure out what the semantics are. Ankaj, where are you on this?
I was important on this, John. I think we have seen it happening with our AI Factory tool, right? When we were developing it, these agents going into all the articles, reading ton of stuff and coming back with nothing. So I think this is an important development from that perspective, where you can provide that context to the agent. So important for me.
Yeah, and it's good for our audience to know, Ankaj works with, our internal robots every day. So he's got a pretty deep understanding of, what it does to performance and so forth. Paul?
You guys know where I am. This is a product announcement. Ideas are a dime a dozen. Optional.
All right. I think that this whole idea of, and we heard it from Steve, I forget his last name, the guy from Capgemini at the AI Realize conference earlier this week. The whole idea of reorienting both the web and your internal data and so forth, so it's machine readable. This is a really big deal, and it's a fundamental transformation. And I think we're going to create parallel universes, or at least parallel doors into the universe of data and inference, which is going to be, there's going to be the machine door and there's going to be the human door. And right now we're putting machines through the human door, and we got a lot of work to do. And just as you said, Adam, inference costs, I think, are going to be a critical part of driving why you do that, along with quality and so forth. So anyway, I hear you, Paul. Product announcement going to go important. All right, next.
Okay, moving on to the next one. This one comes from Moonshot AI, and this talks about Kimi K2 thinking model.
Yeah, I mean, here we go. The Chinese are just rocking and rolling again, Akash.
So, John, I was essential on this one. I feel like this is an inflection point where Chinese open source models will surpass the US proprietary models. So this particular model, its initial version was launched in July 2025, and now they have launched the thinking model. It's a 1 trillion parameter model. There are 32 billion parameters active at any point in time. Important thing that they mention here is that it can do 200 to 300 sequential tool calls. It's trained out of the box to be agentic, to do tool calls. And if we see all the evaluations here, it is already surpassing OpenAI and Anthropic in humanities last exam in BrowseCom. It's slightly behind in software engineering benchmarks, but with further fine-tuning, I think it can improve that as well. So I was essential for all those reasons.
So killer model, outperforming even the best of the best, or the proprietary models. What do you think here, Karen?
Yeah, I love that it has, legs into the agentic, multi-agent orchestration and is very accurate and very fast. But, honestly, adoption will be the judge. So I'd have to go optional.
Optional on that one. All right. From essential to optional. Adam.
Well, it'll be no surprise, John, to probably hear that I thought this was important news, right? This is the leaderboard, right? And we're talking about what's at the top of the state of the art models. And I would probably say it's essential, but it is a crowded space. And for most enterprises, they're either sticking with one of the US vendors or they're going to be evaluating whatever is state of the art in the moment. So I don't think this is something they have to be reading like this weekend. I also want to stay right there. That's showing that Kimi K2 is top of the art, top of the leaderboard for humanities last exam, but they neglected to put Grok 4 heavy on there, which got over 50% on the last exam, which is effectively Grok 4 thinking. So it is a bit of a slight there that they aren't even showing all the competitors on the chart. But otherwise, yeah, it is extraordinary, and I think Ankaj is spot on that this really is that inflection point where we see the open source and the Chinese models accelerate away from the foundation models.
All right, Paul, product announcement, optional?
It's Alibaba's obviously a giant in China. Lots of going on there. I actually don't know how many hyperscalers offer this in their catalog. So I don't know what an AI leader would do it. I mean, they're telling us that, they wouldn't even think about a Chinese model unless it's coming from one of the 3 hyperscalers. So optional.
Yeah. So Paul, we were saying the same point about DeepSeek and Quen models around 4 months back, and now every hyperscaler is offering those 2 models. We have seen examples of US enterprises. So Airbnb, they are relying heavily on Quen set of models. A lot of financial firms are using DeepSeek models. So I think we will see a lot of adoption in this few months.
I agree. I'm just waiting for that confirmation. But certainly Quen and DeepSeek, we've seen the hyperscalers offer them, and we've seen companies tell us, and in print and Wall Street Journal confirm they're using them.
Yeah, I mean, a bunch of our audience is multinational, and I think once you get outside the U.S., I would be, I'd be looking pretty deeply at the Chinese models. You know what I mean? I mean, it's like, yikes. I don't know. Important. Okay, I was almost essential there, Ankash. You almost got me over. All right, important it is.
And Adam or someone explain what the humanities last exam. It's a fabulous thing for people who don't know what it is.
Well, if I'll try and remember exactly, but it's as it says there, actually a rigorously crafted closed-ended benchmark. It's basically like every top-end discipline where you would effectively need like a research thesis, master's level understanding to answer questions in across the broadest possible spectrum. And they're like, this is the test that will be the last exam ever because it's going to be decades till AI can answer these questions. And, they're already getting half of them. So we're getting there very quickly.
That's my understanding. It's like a PhD, and I think 3.5 was like 15% or something. People thought you'd never get above 20%. It's stunning. It's even getting above 40 now.
Yeah, I don't know. I just did a quick AI search, and I couldn't find the Grok Heavy doing over 50. I thought the Gemini AI is saying it's 44.4. It's 44.4. So I don't know.
Yeah, John, if you see it's that it's with tools and it's text only, and that's basically the easiest version of the exam with the most cheat sheets.
Fair enough.
And that's where Grok 4 Heavy performed extraordinarily.
True enough. All righty. Okay. Yeah. Let's go essential on this one. I mean, this is huge, right? I mean, you got a Chinese model going up the top of the charts here, and I understand they took the easiest exam and everything. Kind of like the cognitive exam. No, like it.
I think Ashish has got a great point here that it's not U.S. versus Chinese model; it's a U.S. stack versus a Chinese stack.
Yeah, I completely agree. Yeah, it's yes, and yeah, and don't forget they also have payments and they've got everything else. They've got the development bank in India. Yes. All right, essential it is. Next, Ankash.
Okay, the next one comes from the Boston Consulting Group, and it is titled "From Branches to Bots: Will AI Agents Transform Retail Banking?"
Yeah, from branches to bots here. I was going to give this an important. This thing lays out basically. It's a relatively short article. It lays out what an AI first bank would be like. I don't happen to like the phrase AI first bank because I don't really know what it means. But the notion of, basically they go through and they do a theoretical look. If you go down to the first exhibit, they do a theoretical look at pre-tax profit, net interest income, fees, loan loss provision, operating expenses, and where that's headed. And then they talk about the surplus that's available, billions of dollars of surplus that's available if the banks adopt and they can get to a theoretical minimum. And so there's not, beyond that kind of theoretical approach, there's not a lot reporting on actual stuff. And I thought they were very light on how you would do it, and so conceptually, yeah, the economics could work, but branches to bots, I give it an important. So, but what do you think?
You're talking me down to optional, even as you try and make the case for important there, John. I don't know.
There you go.
I'll jump in with my 2 cents. I think you all know what I think of this. It just didn't have enough relevance for me outside of banking specifically. Like I went down to where they said these are the characteristics of AI first bank, and I really tried to dig deep and think about how could I apply this not to an AI first bank, but just to an AI first organization. It's like hyper personalized customer engagement. Yeah, no kidding. AI is going to bring that. Specific things to financial, autonomous operations. Like I don't know. It just all seemed very very basic to me.
Yeah, Ashish is making the point. Imagine an AI financial advisor, has. It's interesting, Ashish. I've actually looked at some of this market in the past, and the great challenge is people don't believe they're on top of their finances. Less than half of people believe that they are in charge of their own finances. They don't have the confidence that they can do it. So an advisor, I don't know how much that helps. And for a lot of people, it's about forced savings, right? That was the great thing about pension plans and belonging to the union is you didn't have a choice, right? And so I think empirically we can see that only about a third of people can deal with financial choice because only about a third of people save enough money to be financially independent, even though they have access to it. So I hear you. I'm not sure. I'm not sure that choice is a good thing for most people financially. But anyway, I know that's an incredibly horrible thing to say. What do you think here, Karen?
I think the takeaway from this one is that it's stressing that the big value pools will be awarded to the companies that embed end-to-end agents on end-to-end workflows in the retail banks. So I feel like, yep, it's a story we've heard before, but we're also seeing every single industry grapple with this question. Implementation will be the thing that wins. The players in the banks in this example who really implement AI agents end to end will see dramatic ROI. And again, to John's point, there's not much in this article for implementation, but something for each industry to grapple with individually.
Yeah. So you're important on this one, Karen?
Yes.
All righty. Paul?
I'm 1,000% optional. I mean, this is a 2023 article. We're almost into 2026. If you don't think AI is going to transform financial services, you should be shot. And we already know that the biggest challenge is change management AI literacy. So I don't know why more articles on business case. And this is a lead gen for BCG partners to have a conversation with execs. So triple optional.
All right. So and for the National Security Agency that's listening in, Paul meant shot in a metaphorical way.
Yes.
Ankash?
I'm optional on this one, John.
Yeah, you guys have convinced me to optional. And Karen, the thing, BCG is usually pretty good on not only static but dynamic economics. Market forces. They're assuming in this thing that all the surplus is going to the shareholders. Well, won't competitors start to cut price? I think Kevin makes a great point that the financial services institutions are well positioned given their data governance and so forth. So regulation has actually helped them get ready for AI, which is kind of ironic. All right, optional it is. Next.
Okay, the next one that we have for today comes from The New Yorker, and it is titled "Inside the Data Centers That Train AI and Drain the Electrical Grid."
Yeah, I know this probably, reveals my age and bias, but I thought this thing was well written. What do you think, Adam, as an article?
After that,
I think as a New Yorker article, it was an enjoyable read.
Yes.
It was the kind of thing you could sidle up with on a Sunday afternoon, and literally go learn about inside of data centers that train AI and drain the electrical grid, and sort of peel back the curtain on this amazing, incredible world and some of the history of it and some of the stories of it. And I got about a quarter, maybe 20% of the way through it, and noticed that about 3 years of my life had gone by, and I had only gone about this far, and I had read enough. Actually, I was like, I no one needs to read this. Yeah, it was well written article, but it's not AI news.
All right. So Adam does not enjoy an elegant stroll down memory lane. We know this. Okay,
just
Karen?
Don't have time for it, John. Not right now.
Karen, where are you?
Yeah, I think anybody involved in AI is very well aware that energy is a key constraint.
Yeah.
And that's why major players are putting data centers and power, generators out in deserts and so forth, and really putting them everywhere. And I think that's, part and parcel maps to what, the original, energy systems had looked like. You put the power centers everywhere and then they can run all the things. Well, I think until, this one, we're not going to be able to solve. This article is, a really, interesting read, but I would have to go optional because there's no solution here. There's no solution. And I think everybody is driving toward a solution in the AI industry at the moment.
All righty, Ankash.
I was optional on this one, John. To add to Adam's point, you can take this on a Sunday afternoon and quickly doze off. So optional for that reason.
All right, Paul, you went to a liberal arts institution that actually appreciates and can teach people to write well. What do you think?
I do, yeah. And but painfully, John, I agree. This is just not relevant for the AI leader. And if they're reading this in the Sunday afternoon, shame on them. They should put this down and go spend time with the family because AI is going to be really busy in 2026. So, and I also think New Yorkers got to understand, John, you keep talking about the post-text world we live in. I mean, I don't know who's going to be reading those articles 5 years from now.
5 years from now, I'd be
even now.
Yeah. No. All right. Okay, stick this thing in a notebook LM and have it be a podcast. All right, optional it is. Ankash.
Okay, the last one comes from Bessemer Venture Partners, and it is titled "Roadmap to Built World AI."
All right. Speaking of impatience, I think I wonder if we have our friends here who are running this part of the Bessemer Ventures portfolio, kind of making the case for themselves to the powers that be. But what do you think, Karen?
You know, it's a really kind of interesting thought process around an industry that, you know, may or may not get considered often, but it is 25% of the United States gross domestic product. And those industries are the combination of construction and real estate. And I think, you know, real estate was one of the first industries to grab onto AI back in like early 2023. But when you really look at the construction side of it, that's the physical world. So that's why they've termed this the built world. It's unfortunately very behind on tech adoption in general. However, both real estate and construction are language heavy industries, according to Bessemer. So they have so much content in terms of contracts, blueprints, safety reports,
Right.
property listings, and you know, things that comms that go out to tenants. So what the article really states is that multimodal AI is perfectly positioned to handle all that complexity across modalities. And what does it mean when we talk about different modalities? Well, it means the LLMs in the background can run on text, image, video, and voice. And so having the multimodals play in this particular industry makes perfect sense. I do think it's an optional article, but it's a cool read, you know, for a Sunday if you want to check it out. I thought, you know, I was really kind of interested in terms of how the physical world comes into play. That's my take. What did you all think?
All right, optional, Adam.
Yeah, optional as well, but I'm with Karen. If we have to recommend one of these last two articles to someone to read on Sunday, I would give them this one. It's really fascinating, and I had never really considered or realized the magnitude of that built world that they're describing there, and what a massive opportunity. It makes a good point. I'm almost talking myself into an important, but I'm not quite sure what the AI leader would do with this in terms of the direct relevance. So I'll stay with optional, but it's quite an interesting read indeed.
All right, Paul.
Yeah, this is 100% optional. I mean, the built world's been around for decades. It's always been the caboose of technology adoption, mainly because of lease and the tenants are not the owners. We saw this was a very slow area to pick up for sustainability, for energy management. It's not going to be any different in my mind for AI. So optional.
Yeah, I think you meant to say the built world's been around for millennia. Yeah.
Yeah, but certainly, you know, the high skyscraper. Anyway, it's certainly technology into the built world. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I actually, and Paul and I both lived through the .com wave. During the .com wave, I was on the board of a company that was started by a guy named John Macomber, whose family had a big construction company, and to try to solve exactly this problem. And I agree, the technology is there. I mean, you have culture, you have language, you have all kinds of things going on. But the other thing is that there's a lot of corruption in this industry. I mean, you know, and transparency is not the friend of corruption. I mean, in Boston, we had the big dig that cost $15 billion. I've got to believe at least $1 billion of that is, houses down the Cape and, other stuff. So it's, I think it's a dicey area, but all right. I'm going to give this an optional, but it's fascinating. I mean, there's so much opportunity. It's unbelievable. The Ankash, you're working on the TOPE board. Paul, what announcements do we have?
Yeah, 2 announcements. On Monday's Learning Lab, we're going to be reviewing, discussing our answer engine optimization primer. A lot of activity around that on emails and meetings, and talking to Harvard professors and VPs of marketing and directors of SEO. And then next Tuesday, we continue our free Copilot training on Tuesday at noon Eastern, and Thursday for ChatGPT.
All right. Any other announcements? Karen, any announcements for you?
No, that about covers it. I'm excited for the Learning Lab, actually.
All right. Okay, here we've got 1 essential, which is a very undemocratic process. Then we have 2 importance and 2 optionals. Have a great AI weekend. Look forward to seeing you all Monday. Bye-bye now.
Thank you, Karen.
Thanks,
Karen.